After the last few very full-on and labour-intensive videos, I was ready for something easy and relaxing. So what better than painting a few prompts from Create This Book? Got myself set up, snacks, nice smelling candle, but it was school holidays, so... Mom?
Yes?
Try again.
Mom?
Deep breath now.
Yes.
Mom? Seriously?
Yes.
Mum. I am ready to lose my cool. So I changed my game plan and switched to paint markers so I could just pick them up and put them down whenever I needed. But then...
Hey, Di. We're going away for a few days.
But I just want to draw.
There'll be room service and cocktails.
Ooh, strawberry daiquiris.
But what about the video? I didn't want to take my art supplies with me, so I took my iPad. The prompt I wanted to do first was create string decor. Decorate these pages using pieces of string, thread or yarn. Straight away, I envisioned a cute little kitty playing with a ball of yarn. I'm still a noob when it comes to digital drawing, but I do enjoy doing it and it's really convenient. During chill times in the hotel room or by the pool while the kids swam, I could just pick it up and spend a bit more time on getting some more done. But as convenient and enjoyable as digital art is, as I brought Blossom, yes, her name is Blossom, to life, I kept thinking, I wonder what she would look like in 3D. Back at home and I printed Blossom out onto some paper. My printer's not great quality, so it turned out way lighter. But later I do something that makes it darker anyway, so it's probably for the best. Now let's bring in that yarn element of this prompt. To attach the wool, I use tacky glue, as it's pretty strong and doesn't take too long to dry. I really want this circle to look like a spherical ball of wool. So I curve the wool slightly, plus I will do blocks of the wool running in different directions. Finally realised I'm going to get glue on my desk, so I pop a silicone mat onto the desk for protection. I picked these little silicone mats up from Coles supermarket for like $1.50 in the kitchen section. I often use items in my art room that I've repurposed from non-art and craft sections of shops. Like I've got ice cube molds as paint palettes and a pasta machine is my clay roller. And I usually find it's way cheaper too. Question, do any of you have something you use in your art and craft rooms that you may have bought from the kitchen area or hardware section that you use a lot or found really handy? If I can gather enough ideas and you're willing to contribute your wisdom and knowledge, I wouldn't mind making a video sharing our combined, can we call it art and craft supply hacks? I don't know, something like that. With the wool all attached, I've noticed little dark patches where the glue has strayed onto Blossom. So using some matte Mod Podge, I very carefully do a thin coat over the whole picture. I know it can make the ink shift. That's why I have to be very careful and try not to run the brush over an area more than once. And this is where it darkens that colour closer to the digital version. All that's left to do is glue it into the book. But Blossom really is such a cute little kitty, and since I didn't quite quench my sculpting thirst in the last video, I'm hijacking this Create This Book episode and I'm now going to sculpt Blossom. Last week I used Sculpey Original and I suggested in that video it would be good for beginners looking to try something different to air dry clay. So today I'm going to use it again and see how far I can push it. You can tell straight away how different it is to, say, Super Sculpey or Sculpey Living Doll, as there is no way I could break off a hunk like that with my other clays. It's so much softer and you only need to knead it briefly before it's ready to work with. I use aluminium foil to make a sphere for the core of the ball of wool. Then I cover the ball with a sheet of Sculpey. Normally I would roll my clay through my pasta machine, but this clay is so soft it's really easy to flatten out by hand. With a round enough shape done, I get two blobby looking shapes happening for the body and the head, then some ovally shapes for legs and arms. I've learned, painfully slowly, not to get too bogged down on perfecting your shapes or details early on in your sculpt, as the sculpture will change so much as you go and add more body parts. So just rough it out, get the basic shapes to the size you want, then worry about refining the shapes and perfecting everything later. However, I'm going into this sculpt with a very relaxed mindset. I don't want to get bogged down trying to get it perfect. I wanted this video to be chill and easy, and seems I've already gone off plan, and instead of a few quick chill drawings, I'm now doing a full sculpt. I still want it to be easy going. So every time I feel myself trying to perfect something or spending too much time on certain areas, I tell myself stop, let it be, and move on. And I'm feeling very stress-free doing this sculpt and really getting lost in the process. So lost, in fact, hours have passed without me moving off my seat, and my lower back and hips certainly make me pay for it later. Bloody old age. Once the basic shape of the body is done, I make little ears using triangle shapes. For the tail, I use a piece of armature wire for strength and roll a sausage around it. Forgot to use adhesive, so slide it off, slather it up, and slap it back on. Easy fix. Next, I pop some clay into an eye-shaped mould and put it into the freezer for later. While that sets nice and hard, I work on texturing the fur. First, I lightly drag my wide brush tool over the clay, wiping off the excess clay on a clay blob to keep the tool clean. Then, drag some deeper grooves over it with the pointy tool. Finally, I use clay softener to brush over the textured areas to neaten it up and soften up the more deeply textured areas. It's quite a process doing this, and normally I would spend hours just texturing, but I'm trying to be a good girl and moving on as quick as I can. I'm aiming to get this sculpt done in one day, leaving my next half day free for painting. Before I got too carried away with the fur, I worked on the eyes. Once they came out of the freezer, I removed them from the mould, baked them, and chopped them down a bit so they would fit a bit better. I also baked a few fangs, which I popped into place off camera as it was so fiddly. I even had to use tweezers as my fat fingers wouldn't get in there properly. I'm not too happy with those fangs at this point, so I do end up changing it later. Several times. The eyes were tricky too, and I don't end up getting them quite right. The original drawing had them closer together. Well, close enough's good enough. With the eyeballs in place, I use sausages of clay to bulk out the head so it doesn't look so skeletal. Then just work away at refining the shape a bit and smoothing it out. Once that's all done, I pop on the rest of the fur texture. After a bake in the oven, Blossom is ready for some wool on her ball. To To create the yarn, I make some long strands of clay using my extruder. Then twist 2 of the pieces together. Do that several more times, so I've hopefully got enough to cover the ball. I quickly sketched out the directions I want and used Bake & Bond to attach all the clay yarn to the ball. The last detail before the final bake is to drape the clay yarn over the kitty. This was such delicate work to do and very difficult to film. As I was draping the yarn over Blossom, it occurred to me that it was also going to be rather difficult and time consuming to paint this particular strand of yarn. Maybe I could have done the yarn in coloured clay so it would have been a more refined finish, but then I still would have had to have painted the cat around the yarn, so really no way to avoid the detailed paint job. I also considered airbrushing some of the sculpture, but as I'm wanting a quick and easy project and I still need to learn airbrushing, I thought now's not the time. I'll get around to it one day. Once baked, I gave it a quick coat of gesso. But painting something white that is already white, let's skip that. I start out with a decently darker and brighter shade of orange than the original picture, as I will do a heavy dry brushing over the entire thing with a lighter shade, which will lighten the look of the entire thing. Then in with a light yellow, using orange around the edges to blend the areas around the muzzle and ears. I want to keep the colour palette very limited, so I stick to orange, yellow and teal, with just a touch of pink for the nose and ears. I did start making the eyes a darker blue, but I changed that to a darker shade of the teal later. The last thing to paint is the yarn. Again, I start out with a darker shade of the teal. The wool is deeply textured, so it takes a fair bit to get the paint into all the grooves. And painting that single strand wrapped around the kitty is as finicky as I thought it would be. A dry brushing over the top with a lighter shade helps brings out the details. Now, she should be finished and I was ready to film the outro, but I'm still not thrilled about those teeth, so I bust out some epoxy sculpt at the last minute, fill in her mouth, then try my best to resculpt it and repaint it. The last job is to give her a coat of varnish. From a wool and digital drawing to a sculpted figurine, Blossom's pretty darn cute, and this was a lot of fun. As for doing a full sculpt with the Sculpey original with a bit more detail, yeah, works well, it's fine, I highly recommend it. But that's all I've got time for, so I hope to see you next time.